This presentation will provide an update on the LaPorte North-South Corridor project, which aims to construct a new roadway along the east side of the city of LaPorte from US 35 to State Road 39 near Interstate 80. The LaPorte North-South Corridor is a partnership between the City of LaPorte and LaPorte County. Lockmuller Group is the engineering consulting firm brought on to complete the environmental study and preliminary design. Susan Olivas serves as the project principal, and Ruth Hook is the project manager. The project is a partnership with the Indiana Department of Transportation, the Federal Highway Administration, and the Northwestern Indiana Regional Planning Commission. This presentation will review a brief history of the project and the corridor. From there, we will move into a discussion of the alternatives screening document. We will review the goals of the project, the screening methodology and results, and the recommended preferred alternatives to be carried forward into the environmental document. Following the public information meeting on April 13th, comments will be accepted for approximately 30 days, with May 14th being the last day for comments. The city and county want to develop a safe, reliable, efficient, integrated, and connected multimodal transportation system that promotes access, mobility, and economic development. Reduction of traffic within downtown LaPorte will provide a livable and walkable city center and a desired result of improved safety. The project team has analyzed the alternatives and identified those that best meet the goals of the project while minimizing impacts on the human and natural environment. These alternatives are being recommended to be carried forward into the environmental document for further analysis and preliminary design. Currently, the project team is working through the environmental process. Due to the use of federal funds, the project must follow the National Environmental Policy Act that requires the evaluation of multiple alternatives and their potential impacts. These include multiple design alternatives as well as the no-build alternative. For this project, the environmental document requires review by both INDOT and the Federal Highway Administration. Following the completion of the environmental process, the project will move into preliminary engineering, right-of-way acquisition, and then construction and project completion. Initial studies identified two broad corridors in which alternatives should be developed. With input from the city, the county, and other members of the community and stakeholders, the project team developed 4 southern and 3 northern alternatives and presented them to the public at the 2018 Public Information Meeting. Following the 2018 Public Information Meeting, the project team, in coordination with the city and the county, developed a 5th southern alternative. That alternative is a hybrid of 2 of the alternatives. These 8 alternatives were included in the alternatives screening document and will be presented and discussed during this presentation. All 8 alternatives evaluated in the alternatives screening document depart State Road 2 in the same location, to the east of Boyd Boulevard. The 5 southern alternatives tie into US 35 on the south side of the city of LaPorte in several different locations. The 3 northern alternatives depart State Road 2 and tie into US 35 State Road 39 at 3 locations: Seavers Road, County Road 300 North, and to the south of Interstate 80. The locations of interchanges, overpasses, and underpasses, as well as roadway terminations, have not yet been decided. These elements will be identified during the next phase of the project for the recommended preferred alternatives. Alternative A1 involves new roadway construction starting at State Road 2 and extending southwest for approximately 1 mile before connecting to Boyd Boulevard. This alternative will involve improvements to existing Boyd Boulevard until it ties into US 35. The estimated length is 3.43 miles. Alternative A2 involves new roadway construction that starts at State Road 2 and extends southeast until near Division Road, where it turns southwest. The new construction will continue southwest until it ties into the existing Boyd Boulevard near the Stevens Road intersection. This alternative will also improve the remainder of Boyd Boulevard until its intersection with US 35. The estimated length is 3.81 miles. Alternative A3 is an all-new roadway with construction starting at State Road 2 and extending southeast until Division Road. The new construction then turns south until south of State Road 4, where it will then turn southwest. The new construction will continue southwest until it ties into US 35 north of Boyd Boulevard. The estimated length is 3.65 miles. Alternative A2-A4 is the hybrid alternative. It will involve new roadway construction that extends southeast from State Road 2 and then curves southwest at Division Road. The new construction will continue southwest until it connects with US 35 north of Boyd Boulevard. The estimated length of A2-A4 is 4.03 miles. Alternative A4 will be all new construction starting at State Road 2 and extending southeast, then curving southwest, just east of County Road 150 East. The new construction continues southwest and then turns west until it connects to US 35 south of Boyd Boulevard. The estimated length of A4 is 4.99 miles. The Seavers Road alternative will involve upgrading and widening Seavers Road and County Road 200 North from the intersection with State Road 39 to east of Genesis Drive, where the alternative curves southeast and new roadway construction begins. The new roadway will tie into State Road 2. The estimated length is 2.76 miles. Alternative C1 involves the upgrading and widening of the existing County Road 300 North from the intersection with State Road 39 to its end, where the new roadway construction begins and continues east until near County Road 50 West, where it turns south and heads southeast until it ties into State Road 2. The estimated length is 3.68 miles. Alternative C2 is all new roadway construction starting at State Road 39 south of Interstate 80 and continuing east to County Road 50 West, where it curves south and continues southeast to tie into State Road 2. The estimated length is approximately 4.45 miles. In addition to looking at these 5 southern alternatives and 3 northern alternatives, the alternatives screening document also evaluated 2 additional alternatives. These 2 alternatives involve upgrading existing US 35 and State Road 39 within the same limits. The southern US 35 upgrade alternative would improve the existing US 35 from south of Boyd Boulevard north to the intersection of US 35 and State Road 2 and will match the footprint of the other 8 alternatives. The northern US 35 and State Road 39 upgrade alternative would improve existing US 35 and State Road 39 from the intersection with State Road 2 to Interstate 80 and will match the footprint of the other alternatives. The final alternative included in the alternatives screening document is the no-build alternative, which would not involve improvements to any existing roadways or the construction of any new roadways. All of the alternatives will consist of the combination of two typical footprints. Within the urban areas, the footprint will be approximately 100 feet wide and have two 12-foot travel lanes in each direction with a 16-foot center turn lane. A 10-foot multi-use path will be constructed on either side of the roadway. The speed limit for the urban sections will be 35 miles per hour. The rural footprint will be approximately 160 feet wide and have two 12-foot travel lanes in each direction. Each direction of traffic will be separated by a 60-foot median. A 10-foot multi-use path will be constructed on either side of the roadway. The speed limit for the rural sections will be 55 miles per hour. The alternative screening document looked at a multitude of ecological, cultural, and community resources. This involved reviewing the best and most recent GIS data. The resources that were evaluated are listed on the screen. They came from a variety of different sources. Using this data allowed the project team to get a broad understanding of the potential resources within the project area. The full alternative screening document is available on the project website. A hard copy can be requested using the contact information at the end of this presentation or via the project website. Next, we will review the results of the alternatives analysis for those resources that informed the decision-making process. The goal of this analysis is to provide the best balance to potential natural, social, and human impacts. Evaluating impacts to water resources was an important part of the alternative screening. On the left side of the screen, you can see the impacts related to the southern alternatives, which are the A alternatives. On the right side of the screen, you can see the results for the northern alternatives, the Seavers Road alternative, and C alternatives. For the southern alternatives, we saw a wide range of potential impacts based on whether any portion of the route used an existing roadway or was one of the alternatives that required construction of a new roadway. Overall, the alternative that upgrades existing US 35 and alternative A2-A4 are likely to have the fewest impacts to wetland resources. For streams along the southern alternatives, the alternative that upgrades existing US 35 and alternative A1 will have the fewest impacts on streams. For the northern alternatives, the Seavers Road alternative and alternative C1 are likely to have the fewest impacts to wetland resources. For stream resources, the Seavers Road alternative, alternative C2, and the upgrading of existing US 35 State Road 39 would result in the fewest impacts. It should be noted that the development of the environmental document will entail further field investigations to identify and verify any wetland, open water, or stream resource within the preferred alternatives. This is likely to result in different impacts than were identified here, because field observation typically offers more detail than a review of digital sources. All efforts to avoid and minimize impacts will be taken during the design of the project. There are two resources identified here. The two tables on the top of the slide show cultural resources. Cultural resources include any properties, districts, and archaeological sites that are listed on or eligible for listing on the National Register of Historic Places, otherwise known as the National Register or the NRHP. The National Register is a federal list of districts, sites, buildings, structures, and objects deemed worthy of preservation due to their historical significance. For the southern alternatives, there are few cultural resources along the alternatives. The alternative with the greatest likelihood to impact cultural resources would be the alternative that upgrades existing US 35 due to the resources in historic downtown LaPorte. We see a similar pattern for the northern alternatives. The alternative that would upgrade existing US 35 and State Road 39 would likely result in the greatest impact to cultural resources. Recreation facilities include parks, trails, and any other additional resources that are publicly available for use. The two tables at the bottom of the slide identify the recreational facilities in the project area. Alternative A1 is the only southern alternative with a recreation facility that may be impacted by the proposed project, while three of the southern alternatives, A2, A3, and A4, would cross a trail and potentially cause an impact. All of the northern alternatives have the potential to impact trails, and the alternative that upgrades US 35 State Road 39 and Alternative C2 also have recreational facilities along the route. The goal of the alternative screening document was to identify alternatives that would best balance the impacts to the natural, human, and social environment. To evaluate the potential human environment impact, the project team reviewed county parcel lines and the most recent aerials to identify properties that could be affected by the proposed project. For the southern alternatives, we found that those alternatives which upgrade any existing facility resulted in greater impacts to parcels due to the developed nature of those routes. A similar pattern emerged for the northern alternatives. As the project moves forward, the project team will continue to adjust the alignment of the preferred alternatives to minimize impacts to properties. As design progresses, the team will be better able to discuss potential impacts to individual properties, but at this time, specific details are not known. Using the information identified in the alternative screening document, along with discussions with the project team, project sponsors, and project partners, it is recommended that 2 southern alternatives and 1 northern alternative be carried forward into the environmental document for further evaluation and design. Alternatives A3 and A2A4 are the southern alternatives recommended, while alternative C2 is the northern alternative that is recommended. Now that the preferred alternatives have been identified, the project moves into the development of the environmental document. This project has been awarded federal dollars from the Federal Highway Administration through an 80-20 match program. This means that 80% of the project funding is coming from the Federal Highway Administration, while the remaining 20% contribution is a partnership between the City of LaPorte and LaPorte County. For the North-South Corridor project, the Federal Highway Administration is requiring the completion of an environmental assessment. This type of environmental document requires a formal decision from the Federal Highway Administration on the environmental consequences of the project. The project is early in the decision-making process. While the recommended preferred alternatives have been identified, no decision on the final alignment or impacts have been made. Further input on the recommended preferred alternatives is wanted. There will be continued engagement with the public through stakeholder meetings and meetings with representatives of the public to gather additional feedback. As part of the environmental phase, a public hearing will take place near the end of the environmental document process. This hearing will afford members of the public the opportunity to provide formal statements on the environmental document and the proposed project. The public hearing for the North-South Corridor is anticipated to occur towards the end of 2021. Following the public hearing, the Federal Highway Administration will issue their decision on this project. A finding of no significant impact is anticipated. This finding will conclude the environmental phase. The decision is anticipated to occur early in 2022. However, should the project partners in NDOT and the Federal Highway Administration decide that this project warrants further investigation, this project could be elevated to an environmental impact statement, which would require the completion of additional studies. The project has been broken down into 6 phases for design and construction. The table on the screen shows the anticipated cost per phase, assuming design and construction of a 4-lane roadway. These cost estimates are preliminary. As the project and design progresses, project costs will be better defined. It is important to remember that this project is a funding partnership between the City of LaPorte, LaPorte County, and the Federal Highway Administration. The project team thanks you for your interest in the North-South Corridor project, and thanks you for watching this presentation. Following the April 13th public information meeting, comments will be accepted for a period of about 30 days, with May 14th as the final day to submit comments. Comment forms are available at many locations, including on the project website, www.laportecorridor.com, the City Building, and the County Complex. Comments may be emailed or mailed to Ruth Hook with Lockmuller Group. In addition, comments may be left at the City Building or the County Complex. Finally, comments may be submitted on the project website using the Contact section. We welcome all feedback on the information presented, as well as on the alternatives recommended to be carried forward into the environmental document. To continue to receive project information and updates, please visit the project website at www.laportecorridor.com. On the website, you can provide a comment using the Contact section and request to be added to the email contact list. Following the April 13th public information meeting, a recording of the meeting will be uploaded to the website. It will also be available on the City of LaPorte's Facebook and YouTube channels. You can always check the project website for any project updates, including mapping, information, and announcements. Contact Ruth Hook from Lockmuller Group with any questions, comments, or concerns via email at rhook@lockgroup.com, via mail at 112 West Jefferson Boulevard, Suite 500, South Bend, Indiana, 46601, or via phone at 317-334-6816.